Welcome back to the Summer Leadership Series, Episode 4. Have you ever wondered how you can become a better leader? Have you ever just sat there and been really busy? Things are hectic, everything's going on, people are moving in all directions, the chaos is around you, you're feeling overwhelmed with things, and you just wonder, how can this be better? How can we make a difference? Well, that's what we're here to talk to you about today: accountability and self awareness. This is the leadership duo that changes everything. Welcome to the Third and 30 podcast, a coach's podcast where we believe opportunity is everything. And being prepared helps us conquer all the battles that we have lying ahead. We look forward to hosting you on this episode. As we saw in the previous episode, episode 3, what a great time we had talking about standards, boundaries, and preparation. Beautiful segue to what we're going to do today. Last time we had this awesome conversation going through all the standards, all the boundaries, and how these set us up for success in leadership, because being prepared is everything. When that opportunity comes, it's too late to get prepared. When opportunity presents itself, it's too late to prepare. We have to be there and we have to be ready. So today, our theme now transfers into accountability and self awareness. This transformation of leadership from to, from where we are today to where we're going tomorrow. And I'm so excited to have one of my favorite new friends. We met last October, 2025. One of my new friends that I'm so excited to have join us today. This is Leigh-Leigh Kossman. She is an inspirational speaker, a coach who helps women transfer their waiting season into renewed joy. And let me tell you, she helps men too, because she helps keep me aligned. So don't get fooled by any taglines here. Leigh-Leigh Kossman, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hi, Jason. Thank you, buddy. I'm so glad to be here.
I am so happy to be hosting you today. You have such a remarkable story and so many things that are going to come out today as we talk. I don't want to give the audience everything, though.
Okay.
We want to keep them drawn in for a while. So, can you give us a snapshot of your story and set the audience up for the joy that they're in store for today?
Sure. Thank you. Well, my story begins with the fact that I survived my own birth. My twin sister and I were born 2 months early in 1963, and there was very little care for babies that were born prematurely. And she only survived one day. Her name was Melissa. So from the start, I spent the first 3 months of my life in an incubator and an
Oh,
hour and a half away from my parents. Yeah. So it was a kind of a rough start. It's a whole nother story. I had nurses who held me when my folks couldn't be there, and it all turned out good. And anyway, that was the start of it. The start of surviving or beating death 4 times in my life. So
wow.
the first one I don't remember, but I always knew growing up that I was kind of special in that I didn't die, and my sister had died. And so I think all my life I felt like I had survived for a purpose or a reason. I always knew there was something, like you're here for a reason. And so, fast forward into my life, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and I just always knew that there was going to be, besides being a mother, that was my first and biggest and bestest purpose in the whole world. But after our kids began to leave the nest, I was struggling, and what am I going to do next? It was something I really hadn't prepared for, which is weird because all my life I'm firstborn, pleaser child, doer, straight A student, check the box, all plan ahead and make a plan and meet your goals. But all of a sudden I found myself sort of at the edge of a cliff going, whoa, whoa, whoa. I didn't realize I was going to feel like this when our kids left home, and I had this really empty heart. And prior to their leaving, I'd been called by God to youth leadership, and my husband and I did that for 13 years. But I was in that role, ending it as the kids were leaving home. And this is a weird feeling, to be in a calling from the Lord, but not feel like it's holding water anymore. I was
Mm,
like, oh, that's crazy. Like, Lord, you called me to this, but it's not doing it. Like, I don't feel like this is my purpose anymore. And then eventually, I actually waited through about a 3 year desert on the Lord, wondering what He was going to do next with me. Like, okay, now what? And then eventually, God called me to life coaching and to speaking. So there's a whole lot of story there about purpose and seasons in life, waiting on God. And before it all, I survived death another 3 times. So it's been a crazy ride.
You might be the epitome of resilience.
Thanks.
Unbelievable. And now, audience, I have to tell you that I have heard bits and pieces. I can talk today. I have heard bits and pieces of her presentation, and simply hearing the presentation and hearing this story now, the amazing resiliency that I see that comes forth. And doesn't it really show us that leadership shows up in so many different ways? I mean, does it not? In our direction in life, and that our passions can change. And I think that is something that's so impactful to us. And this is why we've come up with the Summer Leadership Series. This is episode 4 of the Summer Leadership Series. And our big theme today is how clarity plus ownership plus resilience equals transformational leadership. And that's what's so important for us, because right now it doesn't matter what industry you're in. Yes, I'm from a sports world that is parks and recreation loaded. And we speak to people in the corporate world as well. And it doesn't matter what world you're from, summer is hard on everybody. It just doesn't matter which walk of life you're in. It is hard. There is vacations we're covering people for. There is work that needs done with kids and adults. There is so much. And what we have the beautiful impact with is providing clarity as leaders, providing that ownership opportunity for those people we work with, and all of us being resilient together, which is why we're here today. And we're going to talk about how leaders grow stronger through that ownership. And we're also grooming the next wave of leaders. We're teaching them the ways. We're helping them to build clarity and resilience. And the biggest thing that I want to also highlight is about having this clarity and resilience we talk about through accountability, and knowing that accountability is something for growth, not punishment. That is such a societal thing. And as we step into this first part here, we're going to take a deep dive right now into accountability as clarity, because we need to be clear as a society. It is not punishment. You go to social media any given day of the week, and you're going to hear someone say, or I shouldn't say hear unless it's a video, you may literally read someone commenting on something that just comes out and says, that person needs held accountable. What they did was wrong, and this and this and this. No, that's not the definition of accountability in its truest sense. That's punishment. What you want is that person needs punished for what they did. The accountability we want to set as leaders is about clarity, expectation, and alignment as a team. It's not designed to catch someone doing wrong or to catch them making a mistake and to call it out and to embarrass them. And it's not meant to be punitive, as in punitive damages to either their ego or their self esteem. Okay, that's not the design. It's about creating an ownership of a work area, a workspace, an ownership for us. Leigh-Leigh, we've talked about raising kids before. For us, there was an ownership there to raise our kids and to pour into them and teach them the ways. I had created through this, we met through a BBG organization, that's the Brand Builders Group. We met through this program back in October. And one of the things we work on is frameworks. And one of the frameworks I had put together is the accountability alignment engine. Notice how the word alignment is literally within there. It's literally in there. And it is the three gears to that: clarity, ownership, and commitment. When we have that clarity, It's creating the alignment for us because we have to align around an idea, not punishment. So for me, when we look at standards plus accountability, then we get consistency. And we talked about standards in the last episode. Those standards now built together with our accountability, we have consistency of an operation. People know what to expect. People know where we're going. People can follow and join us as participants. People can follow us in our work environment and become coworkers. All along the way, we're building trust. All along the way, we're developing tomorrow's leaders. And that's the key to what we're doing. Leigh-Leigh, walk me through how accountability becomes easier for these leaders when they know their mission and how what we're talking about now impacts the work that you have seen and done.
I think accountability starts when kids are little. And you mentioned expectations and standards, and I'm sort of laughing because you talked about summer and how hard summer is. And I forgot that when our kids were little, because you're off schedule, in the school year, you have all kinds of, regiment that you're here and there and here and there on a schedule. And in the summertime, it kind of all goes up in the air. You might have swimming lessons, or you might have some sports things or some camps or whatever, but it's very hodgepodge.
Yeah.
So in order that they didn't get bored during the days, and so that during the daytime when it was unstructured time, I used to have for them, and it's not necessarily a framework, but we used to have every day these little accountability things where we would have reading time, we would have activity time, and we would have chore time, so that every day the kids had little things that they had to do, and I would do it with them. When it was reading time, we would all sit with a book. When it was activity time, the three girls and I would do something fun together, like a craft or something, who knows. And then chore time, I would make them work for a little bit. So the expectation was set that there are things to do, there are things you want to get done. And I think when kids are little, they don't understand the growth aspect or the teaching aspect. But I think that eventually it clicks in with them. Well, mom's having me do this because of X, Y, Z. And then that travels with them through all their years of school, and the expectation and the accountability of, we expect you to get good grades because you're a very bright person. And if there's trouble with the class, how do we get help for that? So I think that translates to teams as well, because like you said, I like that you're talking about alignment, and you have to have buy-in. You don't always have buy-in. Like I said, when kids are little, they're not going to buy into chores. Okay, they're just not going to. But
if you pay them, they will.
Well, I did that too. I did.
Oh.
I would give them a little stipend.
Yeah.
But then we also had a little system for where their money went. We just taught them how to budget and how to give to charity and how to save and all that stuff. So we had a little framework around that too. But I think that with employees, as much alignment as you can get, that's very important. Or groups that you're leading. For instance, my husband and I led the youth at our church for 13 years. And predominantly the kids who come are going to want to be there, but you also need their buy-in. If you're doing a community service project, if you're taking a mission trip, we hauled them all over the United States. They have to understand why they're there, why they're doing what they're doing. And then there's accountability too. So as part of this team, you're responsible for, this is your piece of the pie. This is your piece of the pie. This is what... And recognizing gifts. I think a lot of times alignment comes with that too. Who's best at what, and how can we rearrange things so that each person is using their best strengths, and therefore you're more aligned. And I love that you've mentioned clarity. We can't go forward as leaders if we don't have clarity in what our mission is and why we are the leader, nor can we expect our teammates or our employees to move forward in alignment without clarity.
Amen to that.
Yeah, and I'm also a singer, and I've been a voice teacher for 31 years. And I think about my teaching, and it's one-on-one coaching with the kids. But after a point, I began having showcases. I didn't call them recitals, because recital just has such a negative connotation. But I would do showcases.
I agree.
But throughout the instruction, throughout the year, we always had this goal in mind. Like, when we get closer, what songs do you think you might want to do at the showcase? And in teaching the drills, and so as a leader, regardless of what you're teaching, if it's a skill, if even if it's by the way you lead, you do need to explain this builds on this.
Mm-hmm.
I know this might not be the most desirable thing that we're doing right now, whether it's a chore for a kid or a voice drill for someone. I had a voice teacher who once told me the drill that you should always do is the one you don't like or that you can't do.
Yeah.
But that builds resiliency, that builds strength, and then that builds to your final goal. Where are you going? What's your purpose? What's your mission? Keeping
Mm-hmm.
that all out in front of you. I
I
can't
love
remember.
that.
I don't know if I really just answered that question or got off track there, but as all those words that you said made a lot of sense together.
Yeah.
And I could
No, that was
relate them
great.
back to the various things I've done in my life
Yeah,
after, yeah.
I
Go
thought that
ahead.
was great. And I really like that last part you just went through about what you basically described was the why.
Yeah.
And how are we supposed to lead people to something if we don't tell them the why or don't explain why?
Mm-hmm.
And so much of that is missing in the world is the why. Well, we are going to walk you over here. Like, you want to lead to this spot over here. Okay, why? What's over there that's not over here? And that's that transformative journey. How are we becoming transformational? We are going from here to here because of this reason or because we have this project and here's where we're going. And there's so much depth to that. And, one of the things that I look at, you talked about different ways accountability has shown up in your leadership journey through these different avenues. And one of the things that it also just triggered me for that I was thinking through is when I was leading in certain ways and being accountable. And then when I would kind of lose track of that a little bit,
Mm.
when I would fall off the wagon, so to speak, a little bit, because I myself as a leader got busy. And I was busy being busy. I wrote about this weeks ago, being busy, being busy, busy being busy. And it's such a thing, especially in the summer. My self-awareness was gone in certain moments during my career. My self-awareness was gone. And that is a key component for us for ownership and growth. And if I am not holding myself accountable to a set of standards that I'm trying to lead through, how am I supposed to lead? If I'm late on my assignments or if I'm not showing up for work on time, how am I going to talk to you about not showing up for work on time?
Totally.
How's that happen?
Yeah. I like that you said holding yourself accountable. I have this thought that first and foremost, we have to be accountable to ourselves. Like, do you not have pride in what you're doing? Do you
Mm-hmm.
not want to be the best you can be? And that is set, I think, by your parents and what they expect of you and the standards that you grow up with. And I'm not saying everything has to be full throttle 100%. That's not realistic. But as we pick our direction, as we pick what we want to
Mm-hmm.
accomplish, and as leaders, hopefully we have identified that, or we were put into a leadership position because someone saw that we could lead others or had the capacity or the capabilities to do that. First and foremost, for me, I always want to be accountable to myself. Like, would I be disappointed in myself if I did this or that, or
Yeah.
didn't do this or that? And then most certainly as a parent, I'm sure you understand this, we want to be the role model and the example for our children. And just like you said with employees, how can you expect them to show up on time if you don't show up on time? Same thing with your kids. You lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
And so our behavior is what molds our children's behavior. And I've heard kids get sassy with their parents, but the parents get sassy right back with them. I'm like, well, who started that when they were learning how to talk? What was your tone of voice when you spoke to your kid? Now they're just mirroring it right back to you. So you bring up awareness. I think that awareness is key to absolutely everything. everything that you want to accomplish, every goal, every place that you put your energy and your time, your awareness has to come first.
Mm-hmm.
Your awareness of what you're doing, what you're thinking. Mindset is huge. We can talk about that in a little bit. But awareness is the first step in anything, is that self-awareness, like you say. What am I doing? What am I saying? How am I behaving? Did that work? Did that not work? How can I correct it? Do I need to get help? I think sometimes as leaders, there's this thing like, well, I'm the leader, so I shouldn't need any help. Wrong.
Right.
Especially if you've not been in that capacity before, if you haven't been in
Yeah.
that leadership role. We learn as we go, and it's way okay to get help.
You're so accurate in that. And we get misaligned sometimes because we get experience in a leadership role. We've been in the position for a while, and all of a sudden your blinders kind of go on a little bit, and you start getting a little myopic in your viewpoint, and you're going down this pathway. And I've been doing this for 5 years, I'm good. People come in with fresh ideas. No, I've been doing this for 5 years, I'm good. And then what you don't realize is you start getting complacent yourself. And sometimes that can happen. And that's where my self-awareness had to kick in, because I went through this, and it was only thankfully for a couple weeks, because I was triggered. Literally just boom, my brain started turning. I got triggered. Oh, this isn't going right. Wait a minute. This isn't what I do. This isn't who I am. And here's the thing. We talked about, the blind spots, and we talked about understanding what triggers us in a negative way as well. Well, our values. And my values at that point, they were all wrapped around the H cube formula that I talked about in a previous episode this summer. I want to say it was episode 1, might have been episode 2 as well. H cube formula is health, heart, and habits. Well, health, my workouts were still going. My diet was kind of off. I wasn't eating the foods that fuel me properly. And then I notice, I'm more tired. I'm not having the difficult conversations. So the heart started to go a little bit with that. And then as you get lazy and you start falling a little bit behind, then your habits go, your daily habits that you have. So Leigh-Leigh, I had to realign all those when I realized, like, oh my goodness, it's like when I had the conversation with someone I work with, like, you have 18 part-time staff members you oversee, and you're mad that 2 of them showed up late to work. You're late every freaking day. Well, but it's different. They have to be here to start a class. I'm coming in to like get to this or that. No, it's not different. Why would you not hold yourself to that same standard as the staff? So that self-awareness creates the all famous now. This is famous in the last 10 years is the EQ. As we get into the emotional intelligence, here we talk about kind of that emotional clarity and better leadership decision that we can make and get back on track. So for me, that was huge. And that was a big part of my self-awareness. For you, you've been through a lot of different things. Can you kind of walk us through, how you became this resilient leader, and how your self-awareness had affected you through all this?
I don't know which one to start with. I'll tell you a big whammy. Near death number 2 came when our first child was born. They told us in Lamaze class, if you get put in the helicopter and you have to get sent to Rockford, that's not good. And I remember thinking, oh, that's really comforting, because
Yeah.
Rockford is 15 minutes away, and so that means something is terribly wrong if you get put in a helicopter. And so that was during the Lamaze class. Fast forward a few weeks later, I'd been laboring for hours and hours and hours and hours, and my condition was dive bombing, and our baby was in fetal distress.
Ooh.
And then that which
None of that sounds good.
no, it was very scary. And then that which I had feared was upon me. And they said, honey, we're transporting you to Rockford by helicopter. And my heart dropped, because I knew what that meant. I knew it was really, really bad. And then just when you think it couldn't get any worse, it did. They came flying back into the room, doctors and nurses, and they said, we don't have time. We don't have time to get you to Rockford.
Whoa.
15 minutes. And so I looked at my husband. They shoved him out of the room. They're wheeling me down the hall on a gurney. They're prepping me for an emergency C-section. They're like, we have to do it. We have to take the baby right now. We have to do an emergency C-section. And I was in a birthing room, but that wasn't going to work. We had to go to an
Wow.
OR down the hall. They're prepping me. They're putting a cap on me, putting an oxygen mask on me. And at the very last minute before they fully put that on me, I looked up at the nurse who'd been with me for like 12 hours. She was staying late to continue to be with me. I looked up at her and I go, am I going to die? And she wouldn't answer me.
Ooh.
But my baby Josie and I are miracles. Miracles. We both survived. I had a disease called HELLP syndrome, HELLP, and I won't go into all that, but for people who've had babies or had problems, or doctors or nurses, they know what that is. It's quite deadly and very rare. Mine was an emergency, undiagnosed. We should both be dead. And I survived. But even after we both survived the birth, they thought I wasn't going to live. They still thought I wasn't going to live. So they thought that the baby would have no mom. So
Wow.
that was my first big whammy. And so you have a choice. Am I going to be the woman who wears that like a badge of honor and talks about it all the time? And of course, now I talk about it more because I've been told you need to tell that story.
Yeah.
But it's kind of one of those things that I just, and two more near deaths right after that within a few years, I just didn't dwell on it. I'm like, why dwell on it? I'm alive. My baby's alive. I'm alive. I have two choices. I can be the victim to this and suffer, woe is me, or I can be resilient. And even though my baby was certainly too small to set the example for, I wanted to be the kind of mom who was leading with strength and courage and bravery. And so that is where I would say your awareness, your accountability to yourself, your own even self-leadership. And to my husband, what did I didn't want him to like have his world crash because she survived, but now she's in the dumps all the time. Although I have to say there later on with a couple of more stuff that happened, I was in the dumps at one point so horribly that I was actually diagnosed with PTSD. There was another thing that happened after Josie's birth. It was a bowel puncture. And I won't go into all that, but should have been dead. Clearly should have been dead. So after that, then I was in the dumps and I was diagnosed with PTSD, but I got help. And that's what I want everyone to know. I mentioned earlier about as a leader about getting help. I'm almost 63 years old. And in my generation, there was a stigma of if you seek help, you're weak. And so even in my extreme dark depression and PTSD, I still didn't think I needed to get help. I have faith. I've got God. I don't need to, get somebody else doesn't need to help me. I can help myself. Well, finally, I realized that I needed help. So I saw a psychologist and she saved my life. So I want people to know that. And then, God puts things in our path and we grow from them. We learn from them. A couple years later, I'm sitting at my piano teaching a high school voice student who's having some really bad problems. And I said, honey, have you this, and this? Have you talked to your mom? Yes. Have you blah, 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 blah? Have you sought help? No. I said, well, I have. She goes, you? And I said, yeah. She goes, you're so happy all the time. What do you mean you got help? And I said, I saw a psychologist. I needed to. So I know that was an experience that God let me come through so that I could help others. And she was not the only voice student that was in that boat that I encouraged by sharing my story and saying, it's okay to get help. So to any listener right now who's struggling alone, don't go it alone. Yes, lean on your faith. Yes, speak to God, but God gives us educated people who can help us, people who know more than we know. And as a leader, same thing. If you're the leader and you think that, everyone's looking to you and you need to be the one with all the answers, I'm sure there's someone who can also help you, whether it's a peer in a similar position or someone in a maybe even a different organization who's had more experience than you, or your own boss if you have a boss. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
You're so right with that because I can't even tell you how many people that I've talked to that don't even feel like they can go to somebody to ask for some help. Whether it's a more serious item like what you've walked us through, or it's a leadership item. And we're gaining ground as a society. We
Yes.
definitely are.
Yes.
There's still a little bit of that old stigma around. And it's like, how can we get past that? How can we all know that it's okay to, what was that saying that came out like 2 years ago? It's okay to not be okay
Yeah.
and
Right.
ask for help.
Right.
And like, how can we get there? And I think that it's really important for us to be able to do that. And what you shared is so impactful because you're talking about how you could have let something really big tear you down and tear down how you impact others. And instead, you were accountable to it. And you were, hey, I'm going to do this because people are counting on me. And that's a real life story of how do we get there? How do we make a difference? And I really appreciate that because there's so much there. You could have folded up and said, no, I'm just going to allow others to take care of me because I feel bad or I feel this way.
Right.
And instead, you had the self awareness to turn that around. And that's what I'm really impressed with is to be able to dive into that.
Thank you.
Self awareness has been huge for you, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The when I look at self awareness, I have so many. I feel like work and sports items with that. You have real life plus your leadership journey, and then the real life aspect of that of self awareness. And um, I can't say that I've had some of those life experiences you've had.
I don't want you to have them, Jason. I don't want you to have them. I wouldn't have picked them.
Yeah. Overall, as a whole, what do you think your experiences have taught you through self-awareness and leadership? What do you think they've taught you?
Oh, man. I want to thank God for every experience in my life because we grow. If you don't grow from what you're experiencing, that's really hard and really sad. And sometimes I start out a keynote with, you never know what people are going through in life. And
Mm.
sometimes life will slap you right upside the head. Sometimes you see them coming, sometimes you don't. Sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small. But we have to learn from all of them. And if we're not aware of it and of ourselves and our behavior in it, then
Hmm.
we can't learn and grow. So I'm thankful for all the experiences I've had. Matter of fact, after Josie was born, she's our oldest, and one of my friends said to me a few months later, if you could reverse it all and go back and give birth the way that you had pictured it to be. I didn't even get to see her until she was over 24 hours old because I was in
Oh,
ICU. I
wow.
was in ICU like dying. Like they thought I was going to die. And so someone said, would you change it? Would you go back and change it all and make it different, perfect? And I thought about it for a second, only a second. And I said, no, because I learned things.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you, one of the things I learned was we were at Mother's Day. She was born April 28th. So Mother's Day, I don't think it was that year because I was pretty much still recovering. I spent 5 days in ICU and 9 days in the hospital with a childbirth, which is kind of unusual. And must have been when she was a year old then. And we were at this restaurant, and my dad said, oh my gosh, look at that guy at that table, at the end of the table. He's all scruffy and he's falling asleep at the table with his family. And he said, don't you think he could behave differently or could have cleaned up? And I said, no, Daddy. Maybe he's a doctor and he was up at 3:30 a.m. helping someone to deliver a baby and to live.
Wow.
So even that one thing of compassion and empathy I learned through that experience of having Josie. And there were lots more, but that's one that always sticks in my head.
Mm.
No, I wouldn't change it. So for everything that we go through, we have to find the good in it. We have to, and can talk about gratitude later too. That's one of my favorite things is gratitude. But you've got to look for it. If you don't look for it and find it, you're going to just be miserable. And so there again, what's your self-awareness?
Mm.
What's your self-accountability? How do you want to be? How do you want to portray yourself to your family, your friends, your kids, your spouse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's there's so much depth there with that. And what you've talked about so much leading us up to this part is about resilience, building strength in our leadership, strengthen us as a person too. And you highlighting, I really like how you just highlighted you wouldn't necessarily go back and do it all differently. Because we think that so many, and we see it in movies, we see it in TV shows. If I could go back and do that again, here's all the things I would do different. And I thought about that recently as well. And I thought to some specific times in the last like 10 years, and would I have done this different? Whether it was career or football, would I have done this different? Or would I have done that? What if I would have went that pathway instead? And what I came to the conclusion of is I wouldn't be either who I am or where I am or have obtained some of the knowledge that I did through these experiences. So there is a part of that while yeah, it was tough. And you just highlighted some extremely difficult things like near death experiences. And to say there was a formulation there that led to the resilience, that led to the leadership, that led to everything else.
Yeah.
It's okay. That's the pizza delivery for lunch.
Sorry, yeah, I didn't realize my
We're
radio
good.
was on. Tried
We're
to turn it off.
we're good. It's the pizza delivery.
Yeah.
So we know that there's a requirement of resilience to host accountability, clarity, alignment. And leaders have to recover and learn and move forward. You highlighted this for us beautifully. And it also is what's going to be there for us later in life when things get hard.
Yeah,
And it's what's going to keep us going.
that's right.
And it is such a critical part to that transformation of leadership. So, can you walk us through the mission, resilience, strength model that you have, that you've talked about and led people through? Can you walk us through that?
Yep. So picture a flame. You're going to make a little diagram in your head. So there's a flame in the middle, and the flame is being held very carefully by you. You are the leader. So
I'm going to hold it.
so you're going to hold that flame, or however you want to hold that flame. Then around the flame are 3 points. So you can make either a triangle or a circle with the three things we're going to talk about. The first thing is the mission. That is the reason for the leadership. That's the flame is the mission. So you're the leader in the middle holding that flame. The mission is the reason for the leadership. Why do we even need leadership? What's your mission? Then around another side or a point on the triangular part of the circle is resilience. That's your grit. That's your endurance. We have to be resilient. We have to bounce back. We have to grow. We have to make it through. Then the third point, or the third arrow, if you will, around this little circle thing, is strength, which is the foundation of your mission. It is from resilience. So they work together. The mission fuels the resilience. The resilience builds the strength, and the strength supports the mission. And in the middle of it all is that flame. That's your why. That's your mission. You're the leader. You're holding it. So those are the 3 parts to it. They all support each other.
I love it. Like, and am I wrong to envision this? I can picture this like triangle,
Yeah.
and the flame is in the middle, and on top is the mission, and then on the right corner, I'm looking and I'm thinking, that's that strength or resilience, either one. It can be the resilience. Then you go to the left corner and it's the strength. and then it goes back up to the mission. I'm like seeing it almost like this microphone right here. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's
Yeah.
like right there.
Yeah.
I can envision this. Is that how
It,
you see it?
yeah. And they work together. So the mission, your why, your mission fuels your resilience. Why are you resilient? Why did I
Hmm.
want to bounce back after, near death? Why did I want to be healthy and strong again? Why did I not want to be the victim? Why did I want to put on a smile and plow through, even in the dark moments, as I've talked about? There were dark
Mm.
moments. I'm not saying any time that there's not going to be dark moments, but you have to be gritty. You have to have endurance to go through them. That builds your strength. That's, the other corner, if you will. So the resilience then builds that strength, and the strength sustains the mission back up at the top. So they all work together, but you need all three pieces to support that flame and keep that flame from blowing out. So mine, as a young mom, was to be a mom who set an example, was to lead with a smile, to lead with positivity, to lead with gratitude, to lead with standards and expectations and values that I was helping to impart to our children. That was my flame. And so that was part of the mission. The reason for my leadership was that flame in the middle. And then resilience, and then the strength. And they all work together.
And the most beautiful part is I can actually like picture this in a diagram.
Yeah, totally.
This
I
could
need
be
to
like
make
a
a
poster.
diagram. Yeah, so I have a little diagram. I need to do that.
It could
Yeah.
be a poster that you put on a banner that literally just sits in like the right corner of the screen while you're on these calls.
Ooh, yeah. It's a good idea. Yeah.
I really like it, and it's you can literally see that,
Yep.
and just inherently you're going to a little bit understand it.
Right.
Yet that picture of it's going to make you say, Leigh-Leigh, what is the flame signifying?
Right.
I
It's my
really like
why.
that.
It's my purpose. That's my why.
And think about it. Ben Newman talks about the burn. That's his podcast, The Burn, because he said he talked about you got to go. He wants to go deeper than the purpose. He wants to get into the burn. What are you burning for, Leigh-Leigh? You have a burn.
Mm-hmm.
It's up there,
Yeah.
and that's your purpose that's driving you on a daily basis.
Yes.
So how like we've talked a lot about these big picture things. Let's dive into the weeds for just a second. How do leaders build resilience daily, just not out of crisis?
Yeah.
Because that's a whole different thing.
Right. It is. It is. And it sustains, I think it's part of the, yeah. So we're going to build the resilience, which is going to give us strength. So maybe like if we think about like a bigger cog in the wheel, which are the big problems. And then the smaller cog is the little daily things that we do, the daily practices.
Yeah.
So I help women transform seasons of waiting and change by bringing joy back into their life through small daily practices that build a foundation. So these are some of them. These are some examples, and we can go back to any of them. Gratitude, savoring moments. Savoring is a form of gratitude, but it can be its very own practice. Embracing uncertainty. In other words, sometimes I was always the one who was making the plan, and I liked certainty. I liked knowing my roadmap and knowing which boxes I was going to check and how that was going to
Yeah.
lead me to my goal. Well, then sometimes we come into situations where we don't know what's certain. So we have to embrace that. How do we embrace it? Through faith, through hope, through meditation. And I have to say, like I said earlier, I spent 3 years in a desert waiting on God, and I wasn't the most patient prayer.
Are we ever?
Oh yeah, if I could tell any person in a season of waiting and change, if I can give him one tiny piece of advice, it's just hang on. Know that God is working. God works all things together for good. It's just that his timeline is way different from ours. And looking back, I can tell you exactly why that desert was 3 years. And when I won't go into it now, but it was good. It was good for me. It needed to be. I wouldn't have been ready if God had said at X point, you're going to go do this now. I would have said, are you kidding? I still got kids at home. I don't have time for that. But then as it was, when God called me to it, I had lots of time because the twins were in college by that point. So anyway, okay. So that's embracing uncertainty. Meditation, also part of that, because that trains your brain. Routines such as exercise, nutrition, journaling, daily devotions, having a spiritual practice, like a dedicated, and I've talked about check boxes a lot, so I'll just confess right now, I have all kinds of systems and check boxes to keep me honest and to keep me on track, because I would find that I might like falter and lose my way, like, ugh, I'm feeling really crummy today. And then I think, well, when
Mm.
was the last time you read the Bible? When was the last time you actually prayed and had a conversation with God? Or when was the last time you, whatever spiritual practice there was? So I started holding myself accountable with little systems in my planner and check boxes. And when I do that, it becomes part of my routine. It becomes part of my day, and that sustains me. That
Mm-hmm.
keeps me buoyed up. It's doing the things that keep you mentally in the game, keeping your mindset where in a healthy place. Okay, I have a couple more things. Revisiting your why during challenges. We've talked a lot about challenges, big ones, little ones,
Mm.
expected, unexpected. So why? We have to go back to that why. That's that mission box that's at the top of that pyramid. The why,
Yeah.
the reason for leadership, the reason for why you're doing what you're doing. And I like that you talked about the burn. That's really good. That's right. Like
I
not
wish I
just
could say
this,
I made it up,
not
but I
not just
didn't.
the surface why, but yeah, what's way
Yeah.
under there? Like
Uh-huh.
what's way under that? Um, and we have the power to build resilience, but we're the ones who have to do it. And I tell all of my coaching clients, we we have the power to change our life. We do. We live in the United States of America with
Mm.
all kinds of freedoms. So we have the power, all kinds of unlimited power to change our life. But that's the good and the bad of it, is that we have the power, but we're the only one who can do it. We cannot rely on someone else to change our life.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot rely on someone to make us happy. We cannot rely on someone else to necessarily even tell us what to do, because those things don't always align. What someone wants you to do and what you want to do.
Totally correct.
Yeah.
And doesn't that really go to ownership?
Yeah. Oh, and get this.
You own
So
your experience.
yeah, I've started asking myself this question. If I'm in a slump, if I'm just not feeling tip top, I'll say to myself, okay, what do you need? What do you need? It's a
Mm.
good coaching question. If a client is stuck, well, what do you need? It's hard to answer sometimes, but it goes back to that thing that we have the power.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I need? If I'm in a moment, what is it that I need? And if I sit and think about it long enough, I can usually come up with a solution pretty fast. And most often for me, it's touching base with God, praying, being quiet, not trying to direct traffic, letting God direct traffic,
Mm.
receiving.
Well, and looking at this and diving into this deep conversation, I can tell you from my personal standpoint, one thing that I need to get better at, because I just in my life as a whole, I sometimes lack the ability to slow down. And guess what happens if you lack the ability to slow down? You forget to savor moments more. And there's some times that I look, and you're just, being a football coach, I've been a high school football coach for 16 years
Wow.
while leading a Parks and Rec department.
Wow.
And everything's fast paced. And I can't tell you how many times I just fail to slow down a little bit and maybe enjoy a moment a little bit more. Maybe enjoy that win in football just a little bit more. Just a little bit. But instead, it was instantly to the game film.
Sure.
Instantly. What can we do better? Like, do you realize the magnitude of the win we just had? And we celebrate it for a couple hours, and then it's move on to the next one. Move on to the next one. I was working in a place, and we accomplished some great things. And I'm going to get to the story of that in a minute. But we accomplished some great things, and some of those things I look at and say, I should have celebrated that more. We celebrated.
Mm-hmm.
We did. Holy cow, deep breath, calm down, relax, enjoy it. And maybe I could have enjoyed it longer, is what I'm getting at here. So that's why I sing all these things on here. It was beautiful. so meaningful. And I just look and say, boy, that savoring moment stands out so much. And now I got a kid in college and one that's about to be a senior. So now I'm looking and thinking, wow, like we're almost empty nesters now and got all these kids out of the house. And it's like, wow, what's next? Like, holy cow, we're looking at pictures, putting some stuff away the other day. It's like, wow, that was a long time ago. The picture's from 10 years ago.
Goes so fast.
10 years, boom, that
Mm-hmm.
fast.
Mm-hmm.
Even it's been 6 years since the onset of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I look because I went through a big work transition then. Boom, that fast, 6 years. Which leads me to where I wanted to highlight how a team can really adopt accountability without fear, without shame. Because now we have to look at a team aspect eventually here. And the big team aspect to me is this: you gotta, as a leader, create an environment that feels safe. You have to. You have to model accountability. You and I have talked about this so much with the accountability piece. We talked about the standards, the clarity, the consistency. All of this brings us to psychological safety. Now, when we feel safe, we get to that final piece. And the final piece is commitment. If we commit to the team, if we commit to each other, if we commit to our values, if we commit to being accountable to one another, if we commit to that movement forward, if we commit to the lessons we've learned, and we commit to our values as an organization, it's like looking at that mission you had. You had the burn, you had the flame in the middle, and you went up top to that mission. I'm committed to the mission. I'm going to be accountable to it. We're going to have clarity because this mission, these values, they give us clarity, they give us alignment. And I really think that's the biggest thing for me is as a leader, bringing all this together, whether it's a sports team, whether it's an organization that I work with, instill accountability because that's going to give you the clarity. Okay. We talked about the accountability alignment engine to open up this show. When we have clarity, we get the ownership and now we get the commitment. Because if you own something, you're going to be committed.
Right.
And that's a huge thing for me. And when I look at that, I look at that's accountability. That is bringing the team into it without fear,
Mm-hmm.
letting them commit to something bigger than them, and the resiliency that they bring to the table as well. And I know you have a lot of thoughts on that too.
Well,
You and I have talked about different things.
yeah, I love that as you talk about accountability without fear, because I asked you about that ahead of our going on record. Um, because I have not thought about accountability as a fear driven thing.
Mm,
But I love how you said, I think it was at the beginning of the podcast then, that there's stuff like, oh, so and so needs to be held accountable. No, that's a punishment. You're right.
yeah.
That's a different definition of the word. And as you talk about alignment, you talk about team, you talk about whys, and explaining the why, that helps with accountability. Oh, okay, well, if I need to do 5 pieces to the puzzle and I know why each of the 5 pieces works to make the puzzle complete, I am going to be more accountable to it. I am going to be more likely to do things that are hard, to trudge
Yep.
through, and then in the end to reap the rewards, to celebrate those wins and celebrate the accomplishments. But yeah, it's sometimes I think it's hard with teams. I was an office manager at an ad agency a long time ago before I stopped working to have babies. And, with a staff, you don't always have people who want to do what's required, who want to follow the
Mm,
rules. But you have to, as much as possible, explain to them in your capacity to know
yeah.
why we do what we do, why it's important, and sometimes, okay, this is going to be a tough one for some people to hear. Sometimes we just have to do it because it's required. And I know I've heard Rory
Yeah.
Vaden say this. I love this. Okay, so this comes from Rory Vaden, who's a co-CEO and founder of Brand Builders Group with his wife, AJ. You and I are in that same business group.
Yep.
Rory's mother, Tessie, would say to him, well, liking it isn't a requirement of doing it. You don't have to like it to do it. If it's required, even if you don't like it, you still got to do it. And I hope, Tessie, that I have not messed that up, dear. But it's, liking it isn't a requirement. Sometimes you just have to do it because it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So there's sometimes that little piece of accountability.
Yeah.
But I think more you're talking about people setting their own accountability, people being self-aware, people doing things to help them build resilience and help them build strength, which goes back to we were starting to talk about the daily practices. So all those small daily practices that I talked about: gratitude, savoring, embracing uncertainty, routines, exercise, nutrition, journaling, all those things that we talked about, they build resilience in the non-stressful times. Those are the things that get underneath
Yeah.
and become your foundation, that keep your mindset intact. I think mindset and awareness go hand in hand, but you almost have to have an awareness first that your mindset isn't where it needs to be.
I would agree.
So awareness is like this precursor in the very back of your head that comes before anything.
Yeah.
It's your awareness.
Awareness literally becomes that trigger.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
whoa, something's not right.
right. Yep.
Yeah.
And so often it's our mindset. What do you need? That question I ask myself sometimes. Your head's not in the right spot. What do you need?
Mm-hmm.
You're the only one who can answer it, and 99 times out of 100, you're probably the only one who can do something about it,
Yeah.
which
Absolutely.
builds strength. Okay, so there we go back to that triangle. We're building our resilience, which supports our strength. Strength supports the mission. It's all meshed together around that flame, that grit, that purpose, that
Mm-hmm.
burn way down deep. The why, the why, the why, the why. And I have a coaching friend, shout out to Beck, hey girlfriend, who will ask me, we're peer coaches and we keep each other accountable, and she'll say, if I'm struggling with something, she'll say, well, what's the higher intention of that?
I
Ooh,
like
that's a
that.
good question. And then you go, well, what's the higher intention of that? And what's the higher intention of that? And you just keep, it hurts your brain. You just keep going and it hurts your brain. But you finally get to that burn, is what you get to. Is what you get to.
That burn comes out eventually.
Mm-hmm.
It sure does.
Yeah.
Before we close out, I want to tell a quick story about transformation. It was 2020. I decided to take over a director role, went to a new city. And literally, first day on the job, I get told by administration and an HR director that I can just get rid of the whole staff and start over. There's nothing good going on there. There's no accountability. There's X, Y, and Z. We're not serving the community in a big way, so on and so forth. I get there, walk in, get introduced to the team by this person. Then that person just gets up and leaves. And I'm sitting there at this big table with all these, somewhat 6 other people I don't know. They're
Who
all
you're
direct,
going to fire.
yeah, all direct reports of mine.
Oh.
And I just got told I can get rid of them all. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, this is my first day. I just moved cross country. Okay. Wow. I just started asking questions. Hey, how's everything going? How have you guys all felt during this transition time? Walk me through what your feelings have been during this transition time. Because I know it's been a lot. The previous director, it wasn't officially listed as got fired, but basically got walked out the door. And that was like in March. And I didn't get there till August. So how you feeling? How was the transition? I can feel the tension in the room. Clearly there's a disconnect with City Hall. Does anyone want to walk me through any feelings they have about that? This is a safe space. I realize you don't know me. You can tell me if you want. One or two people did open up and just highlight the disconnect. I said, okay, well, here's, you know, we leave that meeting after like 2 hours of them just giving me different feelings. Hey, what are some of the things we're doing? What are some of the things that what should be on my radar over the next month? What are this and that? Later in the week we meet again. More questions, just building up, trying to learn about what we do. Then about 2 weeks in, I say, hey, let's do an assessment of our entire operation. Let's do it together. Because y'all have said we're not serving the community in the way we can. So we just keep having all these meetings. Then before you know it, we go through 3 months of meetings. I get asked, like, why haven't I fired anybody yet? Well, we're assessing our operation. We don't need to fire anybody yet. We need to learn first. Well, there's no communication between the two buildings. You know what else there wasn't? Forget the accountability. You'd have to have standards before you could even have accountability. There was no expectations.
Mm.
There was no commitment to anything. They all knew they wanted to serve a community. That's what they did know. They knew ways they could do it, but they were never given the bandwidth to do it in the way that they felt they could. So, day after day, week after week, month after month, over the course of the next year, we built values. We assessed our entire operation first. Then we evaluated the money. What's our budget look like? We created values. Those values led us to creating standards. Those standards led us to creating expectations. The expectations gave us something to get grounded upon to host accountability as a team. And then we started a strategic plan that led us to serving the community in a bigger way and setting up our pathway forward. 2020, fourth quarter of 2020, I get there and we're in disarray, shambles. Didn't fire a single person. By 2023, National Gold Medal Award finalist winners.
Way to go.
That means we were communities 30,000 or less, which is like class 5 of the national selection board there. We were one of the top 4 departments in the country.
Wow.
In the country. We weren't even one of the top 30 in the state in 2020.
Wow.
Became one of the top in the country by being simple. We went from confusion to clarity to ownership to accountability, having standards in place and expectation of serving a community. Here's the biggest thing I'll say. Culture is greater than strategy. I do not give a rip what your strategy is, because if you don't have the culture, you cannot develop and implement the strategy. You can
So
certainly
true.
develop a strategy because one
Right.
person can kind of take that over, but you can't implement it.
Nope.
Built culture, designed a strategy. Most importantly, all together.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's
awesome.
and that's probably the biggest transformational change that I've seen go on in an organization.
That's awesome. Bravo to you for not going in like a bull in a china shop, but just sitting back and going, okay, let's assess. Let's see here. I think that somewhere you no doubt had a belief that there was value in each one of those employees. And you also probably had experience
Mm.
that led you to know that maybe perhaps it wasn't all their fault,
Oh, I
you
could
know?
tell from jump.
Yeah, yeah.
I could read that
So,
room.
yeah. So that's really awesome. How blessed they are that you came in and believed in them, even though you didn't know what to believe in. You took what was ahead, what precluded your or what was what's the word I'm looking for? The prelude to your being there was that the other guy got walked out.
Mm.
So was it his fault or was it their fault? And I love that you're like, let me just check this out here. I'm not going to be rash
Yeah.
and make a bunch of bad decisions. I think that's really awesome.
I would
It's a
say
great story.
I would say undoubtedly it's both their faults. Zero doubt that it was both of their faults.
Yeah.
Um, but no, it was a wonderful experience, and that really kind of encapsulates all of the things we're talking about today. From a work standpoint, you've
Yeah.
certainly encapsulated a lot from a leadership and a life standpoint into this, which has built such resilience. If there is one action step, one simple tool you could give our listeners before we close out today, what is it?
Have gratitude. Gratitude is my favorite because if you operate from a place of gratitude, everything else will ripple out much better. When you, like I said earlier, when you can find the good in the small troubles, in the big troubles, there's always something good. Always. Even in tragedy, there's still things that are good. There's the goodness of people who help. There's the goodness of people who love you, who pray for you, who lift you up. There's always good, no matter how, no matter what it is. So I have a gratitude practice that I started on May 13th of 2019.
Hmm.
I I won't go through the whole long story about the whole practice, but I will tell you that part of the stipulation is that I have to be grateful for something new every single day.
Hmm.
And so started out with, I think kitties were number one on my list, kitties. And then, down the list, my husband, my kids, my, blah, 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 parents, grandparents, all this stuff. Well, pretty soon you run out of nouns like persons, places, and things to be grateful for. So you have to start to dig a little bit. And this is what I want to encourage people. There's always something new to be thankful for. So that's different. So you have to, you begin to embrace the experiences. And as you talked about savoring earlier,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I like about savoring, it is a form of gratitude, but it has three tenses: past, present, and future. So when you anticipate something, you're savoring it before it has even started. It's releasing all these great chemicals in your brain, these bursts of dopamine that are priming you for a fun experience or for something that you're looking forward to. When you are in the moment, that is appreciation. You're appreciating what's going on. It's a form of gratitude. It's savoring. You're savoring the moment. And then when you look back on it, that's reflection. Past,
Hmm.
present, future. So there are three forms of savoring. So you can even, as you run out of nouns, persons, places, and things, you can savor a moment. I'm thankful for the moment that I'm remembering from when blah, blah, blah happened. Or I'm thankful that I'm looking forward to blah, blah, blah. So I have a journal and I have written down every single day. I have 2,613 things for which I am grateful. No repeats, except right up front, I
Wow.
repeated hand cream and leopard print. Some things bear repeating. So I could go back and
Hmm.
change those. So it could be Jergens hand cream instead of just hand cream. I could name it. Or it could be Bath and Body Works lemon pie hand cream or something. But it's something different. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And then leopard print, the repeat could be pink leopard print, not just leopard print. So I amended those, fixed them. So by now I have 2,613 new things I'm grateful for. And by tomorrow it'll be 2,614.
Wow.
So I'm just going to keep going.
That's awesome.
Gratitude. Even on, okay, I have a couple of hacks for you. On a normal day, when you're like, every single thing was status quo. I have nothing new to be thankful for. I don't have a new idea. You can take something ordinary, like the mechanical pencil. Think about the days when they used to have to wrap lead in string and write with that.
Mm-hmm.
Then they would hollow out a twig and put graphite in it. Then my grandparents didn't even have a pencil sharpener at their house. They took a knife and whittled down the Dixon Ticonderoga #2 writing pencil with a knife. Well, guess what? With your mechanical pencil, all you have to do is go click, click, and you got a new lead and you have replaceable erasers. So how thankful can we be for something absolutely ordinary? And the other hack is that you can look up National Day of on the internet. And every single day, there are national days of, could be cherry tarts. It could be peanut butter. It could be Martin Luther King Day,
I
perhaps.
love me some
Whatever the
peanut butter.
Yeah, whatever the day. Well, and there's all kinds of peanut butter, right, Jason? You could have crunchy peanut butter. You could
Yeah.
have natural peanut butter. You could have natural crunchy peanut butter. So there's three things right there I just gave you.
Wow.
But there's always something to be thankful for that's new and different that you perhaps hadn't thought of. Like, did you write cheesecake down? Yeah, but how about blueberry covered cheesecake? It's
Mm.
National Day of for perhaps that or something. So there's a
Wow.
couple hacks. If you have a day that's just so status quo, look at something that you hadn't thought about before, stapler, for instance, and think about how thankful you are for staplers, or look up National Day of. So I want
That's
to challenge
awesome.
all of you to start a gratitude practice. That is the foundation for everything. Lead from gratitude. Find the good in every day. Find the good in every moment. And when you can't, ask yourself, what do you need? What do you need to be grateful? What do you need to change things? What do you need to do to change things? Because you can.
Well said.
Thank you.
And I'm going to practice my gratitude today by thanking you for being a part of this show today.
Thank you. It's been
I
my pleasure. This is so fun.
I am grateful to have you on. The lessons I've learned alone from this, and now not only do I get the privilege of recording this with you and hearing it, I get to listen to it at least one more time before I post it, and then again I'll listen after I post it. So I'll get to hear this three
Thank you.
times so I can continue to digest these lessons you've taught us today. So I am very grateful for you and your contributions to teaching us the way. It's been great to have you
Thank,
on and to learn so
thank
much
you.
from you.
Thank you, Jason. It's been my pleasure, and you are my gratitude for today. Thank you very much for having me on. And I learned a lot from you, too. It was great. I loved it.
This is awesome. We get to check each other off the list.
That's right.
So
You
that
got
worked
it.
out good.
It sure
Um,
did.
and for our listeners at home, today we were able to talk through accountability, self awareness, and resilience. Three huge things and how this equals sustainable leadership for us and the impact it has. So listen to this episode twice if you need to. It's okay. What I also want you to do is feel free to read the notes from the show. I'll have my email address and my website. We'll put Leigh-Leigh's email address and website on there as well. Because the number one thing for you to walk out here today with is knowing you're not alone, knowing there's someone you can turn to, knowing that there's someone in your walk of life that can offer that advice, some guidance, or honestly, in some cases, just be an ear and listen. So, those are the things I really want you to remember. So, check out the show notes to get that information. And also, be sure to join us for episode 5 next time when we step back into the world of the power of people. This is going to be about hire better, train smarter, and lead stronger. So we're going to take all these lessons that we've learned and dive into the power of people because people are the beautiful asset that we have at work. It's the people, the connections, the relationships. That's where the power of people is. We're all a great asset to an organization, but it takes all of us. And that's what I'm really excited to dive into next time. So again, Leigh-Leigh, thank you for being here. We'll be getting this episode up and running. You can hear us on all major platforms. This is the third and 30 podcast, and we're out.